All right, we're going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Floyd, Frazier, Cost, Bub, and Marmee. First item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $3,300.
Yes, sir. We had an officer resign from the police department. This is his payout, vacation at home.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Bub, second by Floyd. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a request for appropriation in the amount of $3,376.
This appropriation applies to the Newark Seal project. This is a donation from the Licking County Foundation.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Floyd. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $18,600.
Yes, sir. We are moving this money from a cell phone account to a quartermaster account. The city is getting out of the business of providing officers with cell phones to make sure they answer them. Everyone has their own phone. So we can require them, we'll simply pay them the $25 stipend that it was costing us to provide them with a cheap cell phone that they didn't want to carry because it wasn't as good as the one that they had. So this is essentially a financial wash.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Floyd, second by Frazier. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion passes 5-0. Now I'll entertain a motion for disappropriation in the amount of $18,600 from the quartermaster.
Second.
Motion by Floyd, second by Bub. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Director. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $1,018.28.
This pertains to our STEP traffic grant. This is a housekeeping item for the auditor's office to cover the third quarter reimbursement. Motion.
Second.
Motion by Floyd, second by Bub. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Barbara. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $2,750.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What we're asking here for is an appropriation and a disappropriation. We've got some additional dollars in our gas budget, and we wanted to appropriate $2,750 of that.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Bob, second by Floyd for the appropriation of $2,750. Any questions or discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes 5-0. I'd entertain a motion for the disappropriation, the same amount of $2,750.
Second.
Motion by Cost, second by Frazier. Questions or discussion on the disappropriation? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next item on the agenda is a request for a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit applications to the Ohio Department of Public Safety for fiscal year 2017 Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant, JAG-LE funding.
This is a short-term grant that the Department of Public Safety offers every year. We'd like to apply. We will be meeting this week to discuss what type of equipment the police department needs.
Second.
I have a motion by Floyd, second by Frazier, for the legislature to apply for the grant. Any questions or discussion?
I have one.
Yes, Mr. Frazier.
Is there a cap or a match that's required with this?
There is a match. We, in the last several years, have asked for a waiver to that match, and you can request up to $20,000.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $25,000.
This is for the court is buying a used vehicle for the court's bailiff. We have 2 assigned to us now. They're both being shipped down to the service center to be scrapped or auctioned. And we decided that rather than taking the hand-me-downs, that we were going to buy a relatively new vehicle. It's a 2016 four-wheel drive Jeep. And it comes out of the court's funds, so it doesn't really affect you folks.
Okay.
I wouldn't think.
Make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Bub, second by Floyd. Any questions or discussion for either myself or Your Honor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And with that, this finance meeting stands adjourned. Next up is personnel.
Okay, it's 5:38. We'll call this Personnel Committee meeting to order. First item of legislation this evening is Ordinance 17-44, setting compensation and stating policy with respect to certain appointed positions in the City of Newark, Ohio, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict herewith and declaring an emergency. We have a few items on the agenda tonight. Again, this is 17-44. Law Director Doug Sasson is going to speak to this. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this is a piece of legislation which addresses the remaining 6 employees of the City of Newark who have yet to have their compensation addressed. We've been through all collective bargaining agreements. We've been through debate and passage of all statements of policy. The 6 employees listed on this piece of legislation do not fall under any of those categories. And so we're asking that Council consider this legislation so that those employees will be treated essentially the same as all others. These group of employees got no raise in 2017 or 2014, so this is designed to rectify that and have them treated essentially the same as all other employees, subject to either a statement of policy or a collective bargaining agreement.
Okay. Does anyone on this committee have any questions or comments for the Law Director regarding this matter? Mr. Mangus.
Mr. Law Director, I firmly believe that these employees deserve a pay raise, but I'm a little bit concerned that in the collective bargaining process for all of the other unions, it was a 1.75, 1.75, 1.5 increase over the next 3 years, and this is a 2% increase across the board each year.
That was done because these employees did not receive the same compensation increase as the other employees in 2014, and then they didn't receive any at all. And then in 2017, there was no increase at all. So this amount was put in there at 2%, which is an additional 0.75% over the course of the 3 years to accommodate for those 2 years of zeros.
Okay, anyone else from this committee have any questions or comments regarding this matter?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Marmee, go ahead.
Yeah, and not to the law director's, any of his issues. I could not get in touch with him until today because of my schedule that was happening. I'd like to see, budgetary type numbers, and also we are getting some additional requests now that we've seen some different things happening. So I think that we need to look at this holistically. So what my intention on doing is not dismissing this, but to bring it to the table and then actually to table it pending some additional information that we can get. And that's kind of my intent. I don't want him or anybody that's involved in this to think that we're not willing to discuss it, but I really think that we need some more concrete information. And we also need to see what other entities are trying to determine, what to bring people up to where they should be, or any other possible raises that need to be considered. So at this point, I'm going to entertain a motion to bring it to the table.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to bring this to a table by Marmee, a second by Lang. All those in favor, you want to accept this and table it? That's what you're saying. I'm sorry.
No, I just want to go ahead now, since it's on the table. I want to also make a motion to table this.
But you want to make a motion to accept it first? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but you have to do that. Now it's on the table because there's a motion and a second. During the discussion, I then make the motion to table.
Okay. So I have a motion on motion by Marmee, a second by Lang to table. Am I correct?
No one's seconded the table yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So law director, correct? We don't need to accept this before tabling it.
You need a motion to adopt.
A motion to adopt and then a motion to table,
At which
correct?
point there's now a motion to table, and you vote on the motion to table first.
Okay.
Yep.
There's a motion on the floor to table by Marmee, a second by Lang. And correct, that's non-debatable, that table. And this is non-debatable. So all those in favor of tabling this motion can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay. So the motion to table passes 3-2. Okay, so moving on, we will move on to ordinance 17-45. Setting compensation and stating policy with respect to management and supervisory personnel to the City of Newark, Ohio, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict with this ordinance. Here to speak to that is Utilities Superintendent Roger Loomis.
Yeah, this is a proposal to do two things, really. First of all, there's been some changes to Appendix B. The section, Article 18 under uniforms is deleted out of there. It's not going to be considered as part of this. And then also under Article, the same appendix, Article 3, Section 5, the last sentence is being deleted per the law director as being unconstitutional, so we're not going to do that. So.
Okay. What was the first one?
Article 18 is deleted out of the discussion.
Article 18?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Appendix B.
Okay. Do you have any other information to present, Roger, before we get into questions or comments?
Just wanted to say this is a proposal to provide some incentive pay, and also to provide a way to hire people at a little bit lower pay range for managers, is what this is. It gives the service director authority to hire somebody at 10% below the base wage that's listed in the management contract. It also gives the service director authority to increase somebody's pay up to 2% per year, up to a total of 10% over their employment. So it's basically an incentive pay to some of the managers, and also a way to, when we hire people that don't have maybe all the qualifications, we can hire them at a little bit lower rate. Gives us a pay range to put people in, similar to most other employees. So right now, when you're hired as a manager, you're hired at one pay, and that's what it is. There's no other. You're not up or down. You're paid this. So a new employee hired off the street gets the same as the last employee, or a long-term employee gets the same as a brand new employee. This is a way to put a pay range in, is what we're trying to do. So.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments from the committee?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Marmee, a second by Lang, to move this on. Any further questions or comments from anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this?
I would like to go ahead then and make the motion to make the changes. Do we need to do that, or is it already?
I think it would be better to do the motion to amend for Roger's recommendation.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to amend where we remove Article 18 and also we remove the last sentence in Section 5, which is restrictions placed on employees by the Ohio Revised Code for vacation after retirement.
Did you say sentence 5? Is that what that was?
Section 5.
Section.
Last sentence of Section 5. Last sentence of Section 5.
Okay. So, Law Director, we do need to vote on this amendment before voting. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor to amend, removing Article 18 and removing the last sentence from Section 5 by Marmee, second by Lang. All those in favor of amending this can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0 to amend. Now, we will vote on the ordinance in itself, 17-45. All those in favor of moving this on to full council can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, next item of legislation this evening is 14-47, amending the position classification pay range of the auditor's office by abolishing 2 account clerk, 2 positions, 1 payroll clerk position, and creating 1 auditor's clerk and 1 payroll specialist position, and setting compensation therefore.
Are you going to do 46 next?
Yeah. Use one.
I'm sorry, it was below 47 here. It's, okay, I'm sorry. Ordinance 17-46, it's amending the position classification, pay range, and department authorization tables of the City of Newark Division of Water and Wastewater by creating the classification of systems analysts within the division and setting the compensation therefore, and establishing all other positions within the division. Roger, you may proceed.
Okay, this is an ordinance to create a position called a systems analyst. This is a position where we're proposing that we have to deal with our databases within the Division of Water and Wastewater. We have a real need for that. We have a number of large databases that we have to use. We have some contracts for the software providers to provide some of this work for us. We pay money for those contracts. To help us with that, we are proposing to have somebody in-house that can do things like dealing with the databases with our paying systems, deal with our SCADA systems at the plant, dealing with our asset management databases. These are all SQL Server or Oracle databases that we have to deal with. We just simply don't have people to deal with that. Our managers are mostly doing that work. They are fairly good at some of this stuff, but they're not systems analysts. They're not people that deal with databases all the time. And we feel there's a need for us to have a position like that so that they can be familiar with our specific software and do that work for us, do reporting for us, do data analytics for us. A lot of times we're trying to find data. How many people are using X amount of water, what water is being used in this part of the town, that part of town, that kind of stuff. We cannot get that data out of there unless we're hiring somebody to come in and do that for us, and that's what this position is for. We're also proposing to eliminate an account clerk position that we're not going to rehire, and also as part of this, we're changing one position from a customer service representative to a customer account representative. Same pay range, same pay grade. Everybody else in the water office, the customer service people, are all customer account representatives, but one. So we're going to make all 6 of them the same pay grade. That's been our proposal for a number of years. We were going to do that as people left. It just got to the point we got one left. We just need to do it and change her over to that and go from there. So that's our proposal. So, and this would be an Ask Me position as well, union position as well that we're creating. So.
Okay. Does anyone from this committee have any questions or comments regarding this matter?
Yeah, just one.
Proceed.
What's the net impact on your budget with respect to the position changes?
The information I disseminated out was we thought it was going to be a cost of about $15,000 a year. I personally think that's going to be less than that because we're going to be able to get rid of some contracts. But I don't really want to sit up here and say we're going to do that because we don't really know who we're going to get and how we're going to do it. But I think in the end, I'm hoping in the end that it's going to be a net wash or maybe even a savings for us if we can get rid of some of this stuff, and plus the extra data we're going to get that helps us, and so a maximum cost of $15,000, hopefully a savings to us. But
sure. I'll make a motion.
Okay. There's a motion by Lang,
One second.
a second by Marmee. Mr. Mangus, you may proceed.
Mr. Loomis, so just so I'm clear, we're eliminating one union position, and then we're basically taking another union position and renaming it in essence but keeping it as a union position.
correct.
All right.
Okay. Any further questions or comments from this committee or anyone in the audience? Mark, you may proceed.
When you say contracts, do you mean IT contracts for your current support? Is that what you mean by contracts?
Yeah, for instance, with our billing software, we have a database contract, a service contract, so that the people at Eden Software, who does it's part of Tyler Technologies, they do our billing system. So we have set a contract with them, and I think it's $7,000 or $8,000 a year for them to have time to look at our databases. For instance, the other day we were messing with some stuff. We needed to create some temporary databases to test some stuff. They call us and say, hey, you need to create a couple of temporary databases. Well, our people are like, well, okay, how do I do that? And then we reminded them that we have a contract with them to do that for us, and they said, oh, okay, we're going to do that. This would be the case that they would go do those databases for us. We could test the process, the payment processes, so that we know they work, and then we would go back. The same thing with our asset management system. We've got reporting that we want to get out. What's the cost of certain pumps, those kind of things. How do we get that data out of there? How do we get it out of that database? Integrating with our GIS system, we're trying to establish a customer service module in our GIS so that the person can see where their customer service person's at. Interconnecting those two databases has been a real problem for us in trying to get two companies to work together. We need somebody who knows both of ours to kind of mesh those together. So that's the things that we're talking about. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. I have a motion on the floor by Lang, a second by Marmee. All those in favor of moving this on to full council can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Now back to ordinance 14-47. It's amending the position classification pay range of the auditor's office by abolishing account clerk 2 positions, 1 payroll clerk position, and creating 1 auditor's clerk and 1 payroll specialist positions, and setting compensation therefore. City Auditor Steve Johnson is at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Bubb. I have two AFSCME employees who I would like to address tonight. One is an account clerk 2, and the other is the payroll clerk. What I would like to have those positions appear on the books as an auditor's clerk and a payroll specialist. I'd like to increase the compensation from pay range 31 to pay range 35, which works out to about $1.18 an hour. I have discussed this with AFSCME officials on 2 occasions, and this will need to go before their membership for a vote. But I think we had a very good discussion, and I'm hopeful this will not only be with this committee's approval, but with the union's approval as well. I've attempted as an appointing authority to negotiate this during the last 2 negotiating sessions, and I just was never permitted to do that, so I think it needs to be addressed now. These jobs have changed drastically over the years. When they were classified as a pay range 31, it was basically a clerical type position, and it's moved on from there to like a basic bookkeeping position, and where it is now, which is more of accounting format with duties that are outlined and described by the Government Accounting Standards Board that I always refer to as GASB, and generally accepted accounting principles, which I always call GAAP. So anyway, this is more of an accounting job in nature, and I think they should be compensated as such. Both positions will require cross-training. I have such a small office that the payroll specialist will have to also do accounts payable work and vice versa, just because I only have 5 people in the office and only 2 are bargaining unit members, and this is bargaining unit work. I can provide information to you on how the jobs have changed on a detailed basis if you'd like, but I'm asking for your approval for this pay increase and position name change.
Okay. Anyone from the committee have any questions or comments for the auditor? Mr. Lang, proceed.
Yeah, I'll ask the same question. What's the net impact to your budget, these changes?
It would increase it by about $5,000, but we think we can absorb that into our budget.
Anyone else from this committee have any questions or comments? Anyone from the audience? Okay. I will entertain a motion for ordinance 14-47.
Motion?
Okay. A motion on the floor by Lang, a second by Marmee. Further questions or comments? See none, all those in favor of moving this on to full council can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda this evening is ordinance 17-48. It's amending the pay range for Department of Custodial by adjusting the rate of building maintenance crew leader and custodial worker positions and setting compensation therefore. Service Director David Rhodes is at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to address 2 positions in the Department of Custodial. The first one in the building maintenance crew leader position. In his job description, we're going to be adding project manager. Project manager would help manage projects within the city that falls under the custodial scope. Projects like when we reopen the Hollander Pool, projects like when we put new water lines in City Hall, projects like when we just relit the police department with new balusters. There's a significant savings to the city by that position overseeing the projects rather than hiring contractors, and I believe we can do that in-house. That's the first position. The second position is we have a custodial worker who's just woefully underpaid in the city of Newark. We only have one 13 pay range in the city on the books. We're proposing to move this to a pay range 20. And from a 13, that would still be a very low-paying position within the city. The majority of the people would be, the next group up from there would be a 25. But we felt that that was a fair movement.
Thank you. Anyone from this committee have any questions or comments for the service director?
Yeah, Director Rhodes, how does this impact your budget?
About $4,000, but one project can easily make that up. I'll give you an example. The gate that was ordered by the judges below the garage. We oversaw that project. We didn't hire a contractor. We got the gate, got the electric running, this and that. We'd probably save that amount just in that project alone.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would agree that there's quite a bit of savings that occurs with that throughout time with what that position's done, albeit Hollander Pool, the ballast of not hiring outside work. That's quite there. I think will be still quite a bit of savings coming up with that. So, further questions, comments, Mr. Mangus?
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you can actually answer this question or not this evening for me, but a lot of these ordinances that have come forward tonight are trying to rectify mistakes that have existed, or maybe not mistakes, but pay issues that have existed for quite a bit of time, the third for the custodial worker. Do you have any idea if we have other issues like this?
We've identified other issues, and the one thing that we all agree with, along with the union, is that we're going to meet once a year about June, and we're going to talk about positions within the city. Positions that are needed, positions that are not needed, positions whose job descriptions might be 20 years old where we need to update those job descriptions. So, yes.
That this is a problem we'll be working on.
This is a problem. It's going to be an ongoing problem we need to work on, yes.
Any other further questions or comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion on ordinance 17-48.
Make a motion. Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Marmee, a second by Lang. Further questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving this on to a full council can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, ordinance 17-49. It's amending the position classification, pay range, position authorization tables of the City of Newark by creating the position of Assistant Director of Human Resources within the Division of Human Resources with a strength of 1. Human Resources Director Mike Buskirk is at the podium.
Good evening. There are two of us in my office. My current assistant has a master's in human resources, and she's getting her professional HR certification. And she can, it's amazing what all that she can do. And I'd like to pay her for the work that she's been doing and for additional work that she will be doing if we can get this through. I'll eventually have her doing arbitrations and grievances and that sort of thing too. I'm not going to be here forever, so I want to help her get in line for that position, if you will. As far as the budget goes, we would not have an overtime budget since no one in the department would be available for overtime, and with additional duties that I would have her do, we should be able to reduce our professional services budget to more than pay for this. And we aren't talking about doing this until the first of the year. We got to wait for the new budget, and that's one of the reasons we bring it up tonight.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Buskirk? Anyone from the audience have any questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion on ordinance 17-49. Okay. Seeing none, this motion would fail due to no motion coming forward. So, or this ordinance would fail due to no motion coming forward. So, motion will. We will move on to ordinance 17-50. Ordinance 17-50, it's amending the position classification pay range of the police department non-uniform by creating 1 impound clerk position and 1 information system coordinator position. It's setting compensation, therefore. Safety Director Baum is at the podium.
Yes, thank you. I'll speak to the impound clerk first. These duties are handled by an employee that works part-time at the street department and part-time at the police department. We're proposing to, as Director Rhodes pointed out, some job descriptions are old. They haven't been changed. This employee's position at the street department has pretty much faded away to nothing. What we're proposing is simply to move that employee full-time to the police department. Instead of 4 people doing this job, it will now be done by 1 person. Trust me, it will cut down on communication issues. If somebody's on vacation, the wheel stops until all those people can get together and talk. We won't fill the street department position. The pay is the same. It's essentially a wash. An employee will spend part-time one place, part-time another. We'll simply move to the police department full-time. We've discussed it with the employee. They're fine with it. Like I said, there's no pay difference. It's simply combining duties under 1 person, and it just makes sense for us. The second position is an information systems coordinator. During these discussions, I spoke with union officials 3 different times, and this was a position that the union leadership pointed out to me that there's an inequity, and they felt pretty strongly about it. The police department went to a single records management system that is the same as Granville PD, the same as the sheriff's office. I anticipate most, if not all, of the police agencies in Lincoln County will be using this records management system. But as with any system, everything has to be reconciled within that system. That's one of the duties that this person performs, along with several other things. So, without diving all the way down into the job description, that employee's counterpart at the county makes $4,000 more than she does. We're looking at $1,800, roughly 85 cents an hour. It's something they pointed out that, frankly, I agree with, and I'm going to bring that to you for consideration.
Thank you. Anyone from this committee have any questions or comments for the Safety Director? Mr. Mangus, proceed.
Mr. Baum, my understanding is that this the systems analyst, in essence, system coordinator, will actually help with safety issues for both our police officers, but also citizens, that if a name is entered by the county of a suspect, a criminal, in one format, and we enter it a different way, if we go first name, last name, and they go last name, comma, first name, that we won't be able to access that information as quickly and easily and get the information to our office.
Correct. Everything has to be the same. They not only work with that, but they work with the Ohio Law Enforcement Gateway System, the Law Enforcement Automated Data System. They're the TAC officer, which is accountable for running both of those systems correctly. What happened is there are 5 employees within the Records Bureau of the Police Department. They're all titled the same. They're all paid the same. Her job is not the same as the other jobs, and probably shouldn't be compensated the same as the other jobs.
Any other questions or comments for the Safety Director? Anyone from the audience? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for Ordinance 17-50.
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Lang, second by Mangus. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving this on to a full council can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last item on the agenda this evening is Ordinance 17-51, amending the position classification and position authorization tables of the City of Newark by creating the position of financial analyst for Department of Public Service and setting compensation therefore. Service Director Rhodes or City Engineer Brian Moorhead.
We're proposing that this position will be created. We're not asking at this point for this position to be funded. We hope to point out in the 2018 budget how we will fund this over a period of the past couple of years through conversations with Brian Moorhead and myself, and with Roger Loomis and Brian and myself. We feel as though the city could be well served by a financial analyst, somebody that helps tracks projects, put projects into complete packages, use the contract management software that's within New World that we have. All sorts of items like that. Now, Brian's going to pile on here a little bit, and if you have any further questions, Roger could further pile on.
Yeah, the majority of this work has been occurring with the Secretary 2 position in Dave's office, and that's been going on for the last probably about 7 years. And previously, the accounting for all those individual departments was done by those individual departments, and so everything's kind of brought together in one location at this point. The new duties that we would propose to add to that would be the accounting and the reporting on all the engineering projects, specifically, especially our ODOT projects. We've got additional reporting duties that are needed on our ODOT projects, and right now I'm trying to avoid hiring somebody on the outside to help do that when we can do it internally. So those would be some of the additional duties. All of our construction contracts would be maintained on our New World system, which I just personally don't have the time to do that at this point. And then the project budgeting and funding projections for all the upcoming projects would also be included in that. All of the projects that we have proposed for ODOT, federal funding, and grants and so forth would include in that package. And basically, if you come to me and ask me how those projects are going to be funded in the coming years, I've got a white binder up there that is my kind of my brain and my notebook, and we all think that there should be something more formal than that to keep track of these things. If any you council members wanted to see how we're going to fund Cherry Valley Road Bridge in the upcoming years, you should see where those funds are and what the shortfall is. So we're trying to more formalize this position, and when I look around at other communities, I'm on a group of Central Ohio engineers, ask around how they maintain their project accounting and so forth. This is how they do that. They have a position that maintains those specifically to track the projects as they go along. So we hope you'll see the value of that as we move into the future.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions, I'll try to answer.
Is there anyone on this committee that has any questions or comments for the city engineer? Mr. Lang.
Yeah, just looking to understand the net impact of the budget on this.
When we get to the budget, which will be next, part of the cost of this job will be paid for through the water department, which is non-general fund, because those services would be done through the water department. Also, part of it would be paid for out of street and traffic, which is non-general fund. So the impact to it could be not a wash, but almost a wash, depending on some other positions and things that might go on. That's why we asked to bring it forward in the budget. At that point, and that budget process is somewhat started. I emailed Doug part of my budget this morning, and to go over some of the things, the increases, decreases, and where we're at, and that process is project in motion.
Any other questions or comments? Mark?
When it comes to getting this operational, getting everything input, how long until, I understand the module is ready for us in the New World system, it's just a matter of inputting everything. Do you estimate like 3 or 4 months to get the existing invoices in and then we're up and running, or what are your thoughts around that?
Oh, I haven't put a time frame on it, but I would say over the course of the next year we'd have it fully implemented, and because projects don't come like once a month, so to be able to, jump on board and start moving forward as the projects happen. I would say the winter would be the winter, and going into the spring would be sort of the training time and trying to put in some of the existing info, and then going forward next year, I think would be fully implemented.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion on 17-51.
Motion. Second.
Okay. Motion on the floor by Lang, second by Marmee. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving this on to full council can signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Up next is Service Committee. Thank you.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Bub, Frazier, and Floyd. Up first, consider Resolution 17-78, authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to negotiate and enter into contract without competitive bidding for the purchase and installation of an air-cooled chiller at Newark Police Department headquarters and declaring an emergency. Yes, sir, Mr. Ball.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As you may or may not know, a chiller is essentially a very large air conditioner for the police department. The chiller is failing at the police department. I understand that it's a capital improvement. I also understand that at a bid of roughly between $85,000 and $90,000 that would be very challenging to the capital improvements budget. The police department has had a minimum of 6, a maximum of 9 vacancies at any one time during this year. Therefore, we have an excess in the salary account. I asked Jackie Prince from the auditor's office to evaluate how much that was. She advised me that between the salaries, removing anticipated raises for the rest of this year, anticipated raises, the 1.75 for next year as well, what was left in the pot. That amount was a little over $200,000. So when we went for bids for a new chiller, let me preface that by saying that we've put money into the chiller last year. We need to put money into the chiller this year if we're not going to replace it. It's not several $100s, it's several $1,000s at a time. It's 12 years old. We received a bid from Johnson Control for $89,000. That includes a 5-year warranty. That includes Johnson Control training 2 police department personnel in first response actions so that we don't pay them a service call for coming out to the police department. As somebody who used to authorize payment of those bills, it's usually not less than $400 or $500 to get them to come to the police station, and if they hit a reset button, it's very frustrating. So they're willing to, as part of that fee, train 2 of our people to save them time, to save us money to do this. I would want to take it out of the salary account. I'm also asking for the waiver of the reading rule so that we can still get it out of this year's budget. Also, part of the price that we received from Johnson Control is that this is a time of the year where they're happy to do air conditioner work and not next July when it fails completely. So they would much rather do it at this time of year than next year. So they're taking that into consideration.
Okay. All right, any questions from the committee?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Bob, seconded by Frazier. Any questions for the committee? Ms. Floyd?
I just want to say when Mr. Cost was there and I was there, we did the coffee with a cop last Wednesday. That was mentioned by 2 of the deputy chiefs that was something that really needed to be replaced. And we asked, well, can you continue to repair it? And it's like, well, 5,000 or 6,000 here and 5,000 or 6,000 there, and pretty soon, you put a lot of money into it, and that it was old enough that it just needed to be replaced. So
Yes, ma'am.
I'm in favor of this motion.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Mr. Ellington?
How long would we expect one of these to last?
With the maintenance agreement, anywhere from 15 to 20 years. Previous administrations did not believe in maintenance agreements. One was never purchased, and in 12 years, we're going to need to replace it.
Does that price of the $89,000 include the maintenance agreement?
5 years. 5 years to start, a 5-year warranty. We have them, the police department within their budget just has them come quarterly to check it and clean it.
Okay.
So in the event of some sort of failure or alarm, they're going to train 2 of our people to diagnose that first alarm. But so I guess, no, we don't have a specific maintenance agreement, but we pay them quarterly to come. That the police department has figured that into their budget.
Okay.
When we get a price, we wouldn't want a maintenance agreement on a 12-year-old device that's never had a maintenance agreement. We wouldn't want to pay that fee.
No, of course.
With a new device, we are certainly willing to entertain what the cost of a maintenance agreement would be going forward. Obviously, the price is going to be lower if we start with a maintenance agreement, but if you try and pick one up after several years, the company is going to entertain a penalty for that.
Mr. Frazier?
Is it $89,000 with installation and taxes and warranty?
I understand $89,000 to be it.
Everything.
They show up and it's hooked up.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing this on to council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That'll move on to council with a vote of 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That concludes service committee. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I make a comment?
Mr. Barbie. Yes, sir.
I think that we needed funding for that.
Okay.
And without it, you won't be able to.
So you're going to need a disappropriation and an appropriation.
Otherwise, you can't enter into any kind of contract.
Well, I can't do that tonight, but
Right.
I will get one of those.
Make sure you get that.
I will take care of that. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Very good.
And we are still adjourned. Yep, next will be the Ways and Means Committee.
Call the Ways and Means Committee to order. President is Hall, Bub, and Marmee. We have one item, consider Resolution 1775, resolution to authorize the mayor of the city of Newark, Ohio, to join a coalition of municipalities retaining special counsel for purposes of initiating litigation to challenge the constitutionality of amendments to Chapter 718 of the Ohio Revised Code relating to municipal income tax and declaring an emergency. Ms. Jones.
Good evening.
Thank you.
This resolution was not taken lightly. Treasurer Mercer and I spoke for quite a while on to whether or not to bring this resolution forward. For you to understand it, you need to understand the complications that and restrictions that are being placed on the city by House Bill 49. And that's what I'll speak with to begin with tonight. It's about 10 minutes. House Bill 49 was the state's biennial budget. To give you a history, the last time I was here was about House Bill 5, and we all know the impact that has had on city taxes. It was a complete rewrite of the Section 718 of the Ohio Revised Code and took away this council's authority and power to administer our income tax ordinances. House Bill 49 goes even further than House Bill 5 did. It's going to impact us tremendously. This gives the state the power to collect municipal net profit taxes. Businesses can opt to file with the state of Ohio rather than through our office. Should that happen, the state tax commissioner becomes the tax administrator for the Newark tax code, not me. Now, this is just business net profits. It further limits your powers because you will no longer be able to control the tax administrator for the city because the state will be doing that. The logic behind House Bill 49 was that if businesses paid less municipal tax, they would hire more employees. Looking back in the history of our taxes, I can show you year after year when business taxes were low. Withholding was even lower. So there's some fallacy in their logic behind this. So I looked at 3 areas: the loss of revenue, the disruption of the city's tax code flow, and the administrative burdens and costs put upon our offices. Let's look at the revenue first, because that, of course, is going to be the most influential. In House Bill 49, the state has eliminated what is called the throwback provision. The throwback provision impacts how sales are taxed by municipalities. Under current law, any manufacturer, distributing company, or anyone who delivers goods, if the business is located in the city of Newark and they deliver goods outside of any city where there is no municipal tax, those sales are thrown back to the city of Newark because the business is here and using our services. Under the new law, those sales are no longer thrown back. We can only tax the goods that are delivered, the sales on the goods that are delivered within the city of Newark. So anybody coming in and delivering goods, we can tax them. Now, I was asked, that would increase revenue. No, because I'm no longer the tax administrator, I no longer can get the records of what businesses are working in the city of Newark. I can petition the tax commissioner for them at the state level, but he does not have to respond. The proponents of this elimination said that it would save businesses over $75 million statewide in municipal taxes. Of course, that means all municipalities statewide are going to lose $75 million. The throwback provision also completely eliminates all net profit taxes in our JEDZs in Etna Township. They do not deliver goods within their own JEDZs, so there will be no net profit taxes earned in those districts. I took 5 businesses randomly, different sizes, from our 2016 tax returns. The first column you see is the amount of tax these businesses paid under the current law. The second column is the amount of tax that they would pay under the new law. The last column shows you the loss of revenue. Just by changing the throwback provision, we'd stand to lose $53,701 in tax collections just from these 5 businesses. To make it even worse, these 5 businesses have paid estimated tax that they now have on the books. In this chart, the current estimated tax is what these 5 businesses currently have as credits on their account. What the new required estimated tax shows you is how much potential tax they could owe under the new system, and then the potential refunds are in the last column, because why would they leave money on the books when they know they're going to pay less tax? The total potential refunds is $181,649 just from these 5 businesses. You add that to the $53,701 of lost revenue, you're almost at $250,000 from these businesses that will decrease the Newark income tax collections. This is 5 businesses. We currently have 2,087 active business accounts in the city. Nearly half of those will be impacted by the throwback provision. Last year, business net profit taxes was $1.8 million of the $22 million we collected. Another loss of revenue is the state centralizing the collection of municipal taxes through the Ohio Department of Taxation. Cities will only receive 99.5% of the taxes collected by the state. The state will keep a 0.5% as an administrative fee. Ironically, the state tax commissioner cannot collect municipal taxes. The only way the state tax commissioner can collect them is for this council to vote to give him the power to do it. Under the state system, the cities cannot verify if the collections we receive are correct. Whatever the state sends us is what we get. We cannot verify the validity of refunds. Right now, if somebody files a refund with us, I have a specific clerk that investigates it, and if she doesn't believe it, she asks them for more information. We will not be able to do that. Whatever the state says we owe back, we pay. The cities can do no compliance work. We are currently sending past dues for people who have not filed for 2016. Under the new state law, I won't know until May or November who has filed income taxes returns for the city of Newark. And even then, if I have a business that has not filed, I cannot contact them because I'm not their tax administrator, the state is. I can tell the state tax commissioner that this business hasn't filed, and the way the ordinance is worded is he may investigate information provided by the cities. So it's up to his determination whether our information is valid. The cities will never see any income tax returns or any information provided to the state, except for name, address, employer identification number. We will get the percentage that was allocated, the amount allocated, and that's it. That's all we will know from the business returns. So why is that loss of information important? This is a real-life example from what we had in our office. Every year when we get net profit tax returns from businesses, we look at the wages that the business says are earned in the city of Newark. This particular company said that there was $1,665,004 wages earned in the city of Newark. We take that amount, multiply it by our tax rate. This business should have sent us withholding of $29,138. When we looked at their withholding account, they had only sent us $15,256. Upon investigation of it, we found, with the help of the employer, one division of their company was miscoded, and they did not withhold Newark tax. But because we had access to their net profit return, we could collect the additional $13,882. Under the new state system, we will have to accept the $15,256, and we would be out at the $13,008. This is all on top of the 5-year net operating loss carry forward that was passed in 2004 by House Bill 5 and goes into effect in 2018. The city of Newark is unique in that we at one time allowed a 7-year net operating loss carry forward. We did away with that in 1993. Within the first 3 years after we no longer had a 7-year net operating loss carry forward, the city collections of net profit taxes went up by about 500%. They have also redefined how the 50% loss can be used. When House Bill 5 originally passed, they said that the business could use 50% of their loss, and that was it. They've redefined that. So if a business has a $10,000 loss in 2017, in 2018, they can use $5,000 of that loss. The remaining $5,000 get carried forward to 2020. And it's the same way throughout the 5-year period. So by the end of the 5-year period, the businesses will have been allowed to take 95% of their loss rather than the 50% that the state said they would. The exact impact, dollar impact on this, I can't tell you. What my experience, I've been with the department 27 years, what we saw under the 7-year net operating loss carry forward, every 5 years they're going to have a net operating loss that they can carry forward 5 more years. We saw it time and again. It's also going to disrupt our cash flow. Currently, any tax collections received by our office today are available for the city's use tomorrow. As soon as we deposit it, we can use it. The state distribution timeline creates a 90-day delay in the availability of funds. So let's look at the April 15th tax collections. And this is the distribution timeline. Taxes are collected on April 15th. The tax commissioner for the state has until May 31st to certify the amount of money that was collected for the city of Newark. By June 5th, the director of budget and management for the state must provide for payment to the cities. They do not define what provide for payment means. We don't know if that means we'll get the money on the 5th or sometime after that. The state tax commissioner then has until July 5th to tell us whose money we received. So this money, even if we get it in June 5th, is going to be in limbo until I get the tax commissioner's reports that tells me how to distribute those funds. So it's 90 days. And remember, if we collect it, you can have the money on April 16th. We will get monthly distributions. I took small numbers here because they're easier to wrap your head around. If our collections in a month are actually $10,000, you need to hire a new tax administrator. Let's say the city collected $10,000. The next month, our distribution will be the $10,000 less the $5,000 in refunds, less the state administrative fee of $7.50. Of the $10,000, the city will receive $4,992.50, a little less than half. If there's an overdistribution or refund, this is also going to be a problem. Collections, let's say our collections were $500. Some of those businesses carrying large credits ask for their money back, $204,000 and $400. The overdistribution of $154,400 is more than 25% of our collections. That is not an absurd idea. It can happen. The state tax commissioner has the right to spread that overpayment, repayment back to the state over 36 months. So they would take the $154,400, divide it by 36, and subtract $4,288.89 from future distributions. If we go back to our previous example, we have the $10,000 less the $500 in refunds, the $7.50 administrative fee. We then have the reductions from the prior period of $4,288. Now of the $10,000 collected, the city gets $703.61. There is also administrative costs and burdens. This council will no longer control net profit taxes at all. You would only have control of those that file with us, but you really don't even have control of those, because in House Bill 5, they revised ORC 718 to say that you have to adopt anything the state puts in the state code. We will not. Every year I'm asked to do a projection of future revenue and refunds. I spend a lot of time crunching numbers, doing statistical analysis from the data I have. If I see a company all of a sudden is paying less, I will pull those returns and see, is there a trend? Something happened? Was there a capital expenditure? I will investigate where those funds went down and why. I no longer have those records. I will only know that we'll get whatever the state tells us we can get, and we'll refund whatever the state tells us we have to refund. And the centralized collection will not decrease the size of our staff. Business tax returns make up only 10% of the net profit returns filed with our office. If you put in also the amount of withholding payments and things that we process, then your business net profit tax returns make up less than 3% of the work my staff does. So you have to keep the same staff even though you're getting less money. Looking to the future, there is currently a push in Columbus that we will only be allowed to tax residents. Non-residents working in the city of Newark would no longer pay income tax where they work. So put numbers with that. And when we receive the employer's W-2s every year, we enter them into the tax software, and we designate whether each employee is a resident or non-resident. So I pulled the reports for Owens Corning, Newark City Schools, City of Newark, Licking County, and LMH. Those 5 businesses alone, if we do not tax non-residents, the revenue loss is $6 million. And that's just 5 of our employers. We all know there are more jobs in this city than there are people of working age that are residents. So what is the litigation about? The coalition forming this litigation are planning to challenge the state of Ohio on the Home Rule Amendment, which is Title 17 of the Ohio Constitution. It clearly states municipalities have the authority to exercise all powers of local self-government. The Home Rule Amendment is the municipalities equivalent to state rights guaranteed in the United States Constitution. I have told this council before, no government, in my opinion, is more effective than the one closest to the people. If someone's upset with something going on in Washington or in Columbus, they most likely will not call. If they're upset with something in the city, you're going to hear from them. You're closest to the people, you get it, you know what they need. So we have to ask 2 questions. Did the state overreach their powers with the passage of House Bill 5 and now House Bill 49? And are their actions unconstitutional based on the home rule provisions guaranteed by the Ohio Constitution? Treasurer Mercer and I firmly feel that the answer to both of these is a resounding yes. The challenge to home rule is not a new concept. In the court case of Cincinnati Bell Telephone Company versus Cincinnati, the Supreme Court wrote, "It is well established that the municipal taxing power is one of the powers of local self-government expressly delegated by the people of the state to the people of the municipalities." Taking litigation against a state is not any to be taken lightly, I understand that, but it's also one we can't ignore. The municipalities throughout the state felt that the only way we could really challenge this is to form a coalition. The idea was begun in Dublin. You have here a list of the cities that have already passed resolutions similar to what I gave you tonight. Heath, Lancaster, Reynoldsburg, Dublin, Grandview Heights, Athens, and more cities and villages are joining daily. Why does it have the emergency clause? The provisions of House Bill 49 are effective January 1st of 2018. The state has already started preparing for the collection and has already sent information to all tax offices throughout the state of their plans. If House Bill 49 is not adopted by council by January 1st of 2018, the city will be stripped of its authority to tax, and we will not be able to collect any income tax until we adopt this ordinance. I also have the emergency clause because the people who are doing the litigation need some kind of verbal commitment from the city by October 15th. All I need to tell them is this resolution has gone to full council. I don't have to have council's vote. They just need to have an idea of how many cities are going to be a part of this litigation. If this resolution passes, the outside counsel will be Eugene Hollins of Frost, Brown, and Todd. He plans to file with the courts in November. He will either be filing a writ of mandamus in the Ohio Supreme Court or an injunction with the Common Pleas Court requesting the permanent or interim relief, suspending the January 1st, 2018 deadline. He is also asking for the repeal of not only House Bill 49, but also House Bill 5. So when we look at the past, the impact of House Bill 5, we look at the present, House Bill 49, and we look to the future legislation of not being able to tax residents, the only question left is, can we afford not to join the coalition? Now, I'll be honest with you, there is a cost. You can't file for free. But in light of all of the dollar amounts I showed you tonight, the cost is based on your population of your city to make it affordable for all of the villages and cities throughout the state. A city our size, the total cost is $6,000. So, if you decide to pass this resolution and spend the $6,000, it will be the wisest investment this council has ever made into the residents of the city of Newark. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jobs. Do you have a motion?
I'm going to make a motion.
I'll second.
Are there any questions from the committee? Questions in the audience?
Yeah, I'd like to just comment. I really appreciate all the information that and work that you've done to make sure that we're well educated on this subject. I mean, all the information that you've provided is just, it's incredible the negative impact that it could create for our revenue sources, and in lieu of what has already happened to the local municipalities and the loss of income with as far as what the state was providing towards local municipalities. This would be even an additional devastating blow. And some of the impact there that you didn't even, they're going to take the 5% off the top, and even if we get additional money, or we have to give additional money back, they don't give that money back to us. So they're going to take their 5% right off the top, and they're going to hope that people will overpay, and then we have to refund, and they're going to get 5% off the total. So I think that we really owe it to our citizens to fight this battle. And I really do appreciate both of you and what you've done here. So thank you very much.
What's the timeline on this?
I'm sorry?
I mean, what would be the timeline? I mean, how long would it take to fight this and...
The timeline would be the November deadline.
November deadline.
Yeah.
Okay.
What we hope for is that we can file it in November and it would stop the House Bill 49 from becoming effective in January. If we do not have enough backing for this coalition, I will be back with the new ordinances, which will take our now 84-page income tax ordinance to 97 pages, because they added 10 new sections. And there are others within the bill we need to adopt, but we can't adopt part of House Bill 49 without adopting all of it. And if we adopt all of it, then we are saying, you're right, and we're giving them more fuel for their fire that this is a constitutional
And that's why the
move.
emergency is...
Yeah.
And I want to thank you, too, for all this information. It's unbelievable. Any other questions from the committee? Questions from the audience?
I'll just make a comment for you. You guys don't know me, I'm Tim Mercer, the treasurer, and Barb does a wonderful job with what she comes up with, but sometimes you just get tired of being kind of slapped. And when she texted me this at 11:30 at night, and usually when I get a text at that time of night, something is not good in our office. And when she said, can you come in tomorrow, we need to talk about something, I'm thinking, okay, what happened, what we got to do? And when I came in and she explained what was going on, my first reaction was, let's go, put our name right out there on the top of the line. We're going after this. This is not right. That is not fair at all. You guys do a great job here. The mayor does. I mean, it's a wonderful city, and they're taking bits and pieces of these municipalities and making their pockets look good, and they look good over there, and I'm tired of it. And that's where we come up with what we do.
And the next step, according to our sources, I'm on the Ohio Municipal League Tax Committee, we have heard that the next step will be taking over the collection of all employer withholding. That's 80 to 85% of our collections annually. Can you imagine if we have a 90-day delay in collecting and getting used to that money?
And it is unconstitutional.
Last time I came here it was House Bill 5. Now it's House Bill 49. I have a feeling you're not going to invite me back again.
No, I think you do a great job. Yes, Mr. Blake.
Barb, do you have, I saw your list of cities that are part of that coalition. Where are the big cities at? I mean, the cities that you listed in there are all cities comparable to us, but where are the other ones, larger cities?
Most of the cities are keeping this really close to their chests. There's a thought that, cities are afraid that the state will take it out on the city if they sign a board with this. From my understanding from the tax, Mindy Frank in Columbus and the new tax administrator in Cincinnati, they plan on passing these resolutions. What we're trying to get is a coalition that represents everything from the small village up through the big 3C. What the state is trying to accomplish is a cookie cutter. Everything in all the cities are the same. My best example for that for you is with House Bill 5, estimated tax where it was required to be paid if for $200 or more was owed in a year. For us, that wasn't a problem. Our estimated tax was $250. For a village like West Lafayette, their estimated tax was $0. If you owed tax, you paid it. Now their cash flow is horrible because now they cannot get money until somebody owes $200 or more. So one solution does not work for every city in the state. My daughter's a size 4, I'm not. The one-size-fits-all pantyhose don't fit both of us.
Are there any other questions?
If I could just follow up in response to Councilman Blake's question, this is following a similar pattern to the Christmas tree bill from last year, where the telecommunications right-of-way law was tacked on, and it was challenged on the same home rule constitutionality grounds. Your bigger cities of Cleveland and Cincinnati filed actions themselves. There was another coalition of smaller and medium-sized cities that had filed an action in Common Pleas Court in Franklin County, joining their resources together because none of them individually had the resources to pursue that action. And it was that case with the coalition of those smaller cities that actually was granted the relief they wanted, had the injunction granted, and that provision of the bill set aside. So that's exactly the kind of model that is trying to be followed here. Will Cincinnati and Cleveland file their own action? That I don't know. But smaller cities just don't have the resources to pursue it independently.
Any other questions? All those in favor of passing on to full council, 1775. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Resolution passes 3-0.
Thank you.
And we are adjourned, and economic development is next.
You share your.
Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Economic Development Committee to order. Members present are Mr. Rath, Mr. Cost, Mr. Lang, Mr. Frazier, and Mr. Blake. We have one ordinance to consider this evening. Consider ordinance number 1743, Article 46, MB Medium and Density Business District, Article 64, Limited Industrial District, Article 60, DC Downtown District of the Zoning Code of the City of Newark, Ohio. This is being presented by Councilman Frazier. Let him speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is come to fruition. So what we've seen is a prohibition moratorium that was brought forth and rejected by this council. We saw a proposal last week that was brought forward, and it did not make it out of committee. I did not support that it was not holistic, that it did not include processors and cultivators, as well as I disagreed with the zoning that it was intended for, as well as a residential restriction that was attached to it. So my legislation, I said that it was going to come forward in 3 weeks. This is where we're at. So what we have before us is a medium intensity business district zoning. What that is for is it's above limited office, general office, limited intensity business. Those are supposed to be treated as a buffer between residential areas and commercial districts. That's what the zoning was intended for. So what we also included in this was a 1,000-foot prohibition from schools, churches, libraries, playgrounds, public parks, and addiction services providers. And so what we see in the zoning map is, and we're waiting for the final version from the engineer's office because of how complex this is from about the west side of Dio Drive down to Catalina on 21st Street will be available for zoning. Pieces of 13 around Plaza Pizza would be available. Far west, as far as West Main and Cherry Valley Road intersection, Tamarack area would be available, as well as far east regarding the church and the daycare center. There's some zoning available over there as well. And so we're waiting on the final map to come out, but based on my ruler and my zoning map, that's where it appears to fall down. I also had a conversation with the engineer's office today, and they confirmed that that's most likely the areas that should be able to have a medium intensity business district that's far away enough from the prohibitive areas of 1,000 feet. So I hope that the council and this committee will support this legislation in order to move it on to full council, where it will then go to the Planning Commission, and then we will see what the Planning Commission comes back with. There is a corresponding legislation being worked on by the law director as well to require a $500 licensing fee on January 31st of every year for all 3 cultivators, processors, and distribution centers, in order to make sure that we are aware of what's in the application, which is thorough, as well as making sure that they renew on a regular basis to keep us informed as far as employees and any terminations and any issues that they have. There's also a clause with the state for if there is termination, the state is supposed to notify the local police enforcement, and so if there's any changes as well. One of the items that I have passed around the committee is a synopsis of the state legislation to show the surveillance requirements, to show the protections that are provided, to show that this is the most controlled rollout of medical marijuana in the country. And what you're seeing is operating hours that are very distinct, 24-hour surveillance, vault security, panic alarms. And so medium intensity business not only goes with health clinics, but it also goes with banks. And so what we're seeing is the security aspect, the regulatory aspect, and the manner in which it is going to be used falls directly in line with the medium intensity business. And with that, I'll yield.
Any questions, comments from the committee? Mr. Lang.
Yeah, Mark, can you clarify where does that put us for the processors and
Processors are not allowed to be within 500 feet of a park, school, church. But because
I just mean in terms of the zoning that they were proposing.
Oh, so it's limited industrial, and so with the 500 feet restriction, you're looking at some contentious areas on Buckeye Avenue because of the Wells Avenue Park, but you also see Tamarack area, and then you also see some areas on East Main Street that is kind of spotty with the school that's out there, but there should be spots available for limited industrial for cultivators and processors.
Further questions, comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? Yes, sir. I'll let you go and then count. Yeah.
So my name's Marcia.
Could you come to the podium? I'm sorry. And then just say your name and address. And then we'll...
So my name's Mark Schiavone. I wanted to try to put a medical marijuana dispensary in the city of Newark. I was pretty excited about it. The one thing is that the application needs to be in by November 17th. So, in order to fill out the application, you really have to have all your ducks in a row here. And, most of that application process revolves around having the exact location brought down. So, I would realistically need to know for sure within like 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half, if I could move forward in the city of Newark. I don't really know where that puts us.
So
as far as the timeline goes.
Do you mind if I answer that, and I'll adhere to the law director too to make sure that's clear. So because we revoked the prohibition,
okay,
there is technically no zoning in the city of Newark, and there's also no zoning restricting you from doing business.
Okay.
So that kind of puts you in a gray area where you're allowed to file because there's no specific zoning on the books.
Okay.
Where we're targeting is medium intensity business. That's going to go through the planning process, and it probably won't come out till January. So as far as planning your location, you can focus on a medium intensity business with the map with 1,000 feet, and you can move forward with that with the intent that, hey, this will eventually come, but with your application you can check that box that said there's no distinct zoning in place.
Okay, but I would still have to, get a lease in place for a specific area, and that's okay to do then at this time? Okay.
I believe so. Mr. Law Director, you can correct me if I say anything wrong.
You need to speak with your attorney, not me.
And I'm not an attorney.
No, I got you. I've just been kind of thrown back and forth within a few different things. So, okay. I guess I kind of understand, but I'm still a little bit, unclear on whether I should be able to move forward with it.
So there's a lot of municipalities that have not addressed this issue at all.
Right.
We're basically in the same state right now.
Gotcha.
And so what you have seen from this council is we do not want a prohibition and we do not want a moratorium.
Okay.
So we want to do business. The zoning process takes time. We're initiating that process now.
Okay.
We would love to have your business. If it's not worth the risk, we absolutely understand.
Gotcha.
This is going to be a very competitive market, especially with 3 dispensaries in a 4-county radius, and we would love to have your business and apply. With that being said, between the state process of determining who's going to get it, how many people apply, and the zoning complexities, you absolutely should consult an attorney, and you should also weigh the options of other communities that aren't addressing this whatsoever.
Okay. And if I came up with a location, who would I contact to see if we were okay within the city and the zoning and everything else like that, for that matter?
Can I just make a comment?
Well, Mr.
Similar to what he said.
Go ahead.
It's going to be a combination of a couple things. One thing, you don't have any restrictions other than what the state has at this point.
Gotcha.
Your lease agreements are up to you. Contact your attorney. If your attorney is a good attorney, they'll have out clauses that you'll be able to have in there provided so then you can get out of it. A lot of folks may have multiple leases right at this very moment just because of that.
Right.
So that is what is common practice and what's happening in the state. But as of right now, the biggest thing that you can check on that application is there is no moratorium on there. And if you have to have a lease agreement, your attorney should be able to write it in such a manner that there should be out clauses.
Okay, so keep it with the 1,000 feet though instead of the 500
Correct.
feet.
You're still
just
going to
to be
have
in
to
the
do
safe
that
zone.
because that's state requirement.
Okay.
And Mr. Mangus, you want to make a comment?
I just had a quick question. We keep talking about medium-intensity business districts, but this legislation as written will actually allow it not only in medium-intensity business districts, but everything above that. And that's same for the cultivators in their districts, the processors as well. Is that as well the intention of this legislation, or are we trying to keep it in just each of these separate zoning levels?
That's the intention of zoning. So we zone it and it rolls up. And so limited industrial district also goes higher to a general industrial district. So we zone it to where it's appropriate. When it comes to a high intensity, a general business, and then on upwards, it's meant to be zoned appropriately. And as that intensity increases, it's allowed in. And so that's exactly how it's supposed to work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Mangus?
Just one other more of a comment or a concern regarding this legislation. Here in Newark, many of our zones, our zoning areas back up to residential neighborhoods. A medium-intensity district isn't necessarily separated from a residential area. And I am concerned that we're saying that medical marijuana dispensary shouldn't be within 1,000 feet of a school, a church, but that it's okay to have it back right up to a residential area. Frankly, I don't see what the difference is between a residential area and a school and a church. That's just one of the concerns that I have in this.
Any other questions or comments from the audience?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Frazier.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lang. Any further questions or comments for the audience, or from the committee, or from the audience? Anyone?
Everyone.
Anyone within my
Anyone
sound of
and
my
everyone.
voice? Do you want to speak? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of sending this to full council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. That concludes the business of economic development, and we are actually done with the